Hi, Martha. We're so excited you're here with us today. And I know a little bit about you, but not a lot. So I thought I'd have you introduce yourself and your business, and then we'll ask a series of questions about that. But tell us about your business, Adapt and Stay, not Stray, Adapt and Stay, and what you're doing with that business now. And then we'll talk more about how you got to there.
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Martha Pack, and been an OT forever, it seems. I guess longer than half my life. So 30 something years. But I started Adapt and Stay basically around when COVID happened. And I was afraid we were going to get laid off at my job, and nobody knew what was going to happen. But I already had the interest in home modifications, and I had already taken the CAPS course. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to start doing this as a side hustle. And the more I learned about it and got into it, I figured out, oh, there's a lot more to this. I can't just do this as a side hustle. But no, I help people modify their homes, and I'm focusing mainly on seniors and aging in place. Um, and I also do a lot of caregiver education and planning with the journey of aging, and how to do that in a way that is safe and keeps people independent as long as they want to stay. And whether that home be, their home that they're living in with windows and a door, or even a facility, it could be assisted living or independent living as well.
Mhm. And so, what inspired you to really move into home mods? Because you said, oh, you took the CAPS course, but why did you even do that part as OT? I mean, I've been in OT for 45 years or more now. We know there's a range and a large area of OT practice.
Absolutely. There's a very large range, which is one reason I went into occupational therapy, because I thought to myself, if I get bored in one area, I can just go do something else. And so basically, I had worked in almost every setting there is. And, whether it's the school system or a hospital or outpatient rehab, all the things, skilled nursing homes. One area I had not done was home health. And when we moved to Knoxville, I decided I really want to do home health. To me, that seems the most logical form of occupational therapy, because you're in their natural environment.
Yeah.
So in doing that, I got the job, and really love home health. It's a great field, but you either love it or you don't. I have found. But I remember the first home health patient I had on my own without my mentor assisting me. We were doing a shower transfer, and I said, "Oh, well, I see you have a suction cup grab bar, which, boo, we don't want to use those." I said, "But that in home health, you just have to go with what you have." And I said, "We really need to move that in a better place to help you get in and out of the shower." And once I moved it, he did it so much safer and so much easier. But of course, I showed him how to check it to make sure it's really attached and all the things. But that really piqued my interest of, oh, where to put things, grab bars. How do you know where to put them and place them? And then, doing home health more and more, I found being in people's homes, some of these people would spend a lot of money and modify their homes, spend 20, 30, $40,000 to redo their bathroom and remodel. They thought it would be accessible, but it turns out sometimes it was not. And it really made me click and think, oh, if they had only had an occupational therapist to be that bridge of communication between the client and the contractor, to make it really customized, to make it safe for them. So
Mhm.
that's really what kind of got me going.
Yeah, that sounds like that kind of sparked your passion for helping people age in their place. And you're right, home health or working in clients' homes as we do in outpatient mobile therapy is really seeing them in their own special environment. But coming into that, and you alluded to this when you gave your introduction, what kind of hesitations, misconceptions did you see when you started? And how did that change?
Well, yeah, I guess learning, when you learn about home modifications, there's a lot to learn. It's more than just what meets the eye. And taking the CAPS course, it was helpful and it was great because there were all kinds of disciplines in that course and learning what other professions do, whether that be even realtor, or we even had a police officer in my class. We had a DME company representative. There were cabinet makers. So all kinds of professions taking this CAPS class. But to me, it didn't feel deep enough. I wanted to know more. I wanted to be more in depth. And so I found the ECHM course, the Executive Certification in Home Modification, and took that course. But in the middle of that course, then I found Sue Doyle. And I took both of those at the same time, which was really hard.
I remember that.
But it was great because it was a good blend of seeing different perspectives of those courses. But yes, when taking Sue's course, I learned it is really the best thing to do is to form a business, which I never thought I would do. I didn't think I could do that. Um, so that was definitely a misconception, that I thought it could be a little side hustle, but really to do it correctly in the right way, I've formed a business and it's been a journey to do that.
Mhm. So, you took those other courses, but then you took the initial version of the chat. What was different about that that gave you the confidence to move forward with that and to kind of solidify what you were doing as an OT?
Yeah, so the chat course especially was interesting. And then it really gave the true OT perspective. This is made just for therapists, and it really applies the OT background, but you can still even go different directions with it. Um, there's the Medicare B aspect, or the private pay, and grants, all the different ways of earning income doing home modifications. And I have delved into kind of all of those. So it's interesting to learn the correct way to do that. And there are rules and Medicare rules and things that you want to, make sure you fully understand in how you're doing this too. So,
Yeah, and from there, as you've built your business, you've developed your confidence and everything else. But what strategies do you think were really the most helpful? I mean, in the course, we do a range of things. So, what did you take with you that was different from when you did that shower transfer that you were talking about then?
yeah. So I still would work my home health job while building the business. And I really found doing my home health job, my visits got longer, which
Oops.
probably the company was not happy about. But it's like there's so much knowledge now that you want to share with people, that because a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. And teaching people how, and it may seem elementary, or it may seem like logic sometimes to us as the therapist, but to the layman, they don't understand unless we teach them. And just keeping the basics of, you know, how to make them functional in their own homes and be safe is important. So some of the strategies used from that course in particular, just learning particulars about how to measure doorways and correctly, and how to measure toilet heights, and then how to know which is the best toilet height, or what type of bar you should use, where to place it, just all the particulars in relating it to their functional activity. What is it we're trying to accomplish when we're in the home doing home modifications, and really making it client centered to what is most important to the client? What do they want to be able to do, and listening to them, and then applying that knowledge to help them get to where they want to be. And not only the client, but also their family members or caregivers, um, teaching them as well about how to modify and be safe at home.
Yeah, that's really important because the whole components of their environment count, right? It's not just the physical component, it's the occupation within the physical environment, but it's also the social component that's there, and accounting for those. Um, so where did this lead you? Because you talked a little bit about your business now, but not a lot, because I know, one, how busy you are, and two, what a variety of things you're doing. So,
Yeah.
can you explain to listeners, watchers, what it is you're actually doing in your business now in terms of the grants and the people that you work for?
Yeah. So I am staying very busy. I am working a HUD grant. It's the OAHMP HUD grant, which stands for Older Adult Home Modification Program. And that is a grant, a federal grant that requires an occupational therapist to be involved. And so what I do with that grant is it's a $2 million grant that we were awarded over a 3 year period. And we serve
Who was awarded that?
where I live in Knox County, Tennessee.
Okay, so
Um,
the county or a nonprofit?
it was a nonprofit, yes.
Okay.
Knox County Home Rehabilitation. Yeah, it's a nonprofit. So they were awarded the grant, and they do a lot of grants.
Mm.
And the thing that's really cool is that they can blend this grant with even other federal grants to really give the client the bang for their buck, to help him as much as possible. But we're going in, it's mostly low income housing, and we go in and do an assessment, and which involves partly an interview and a lot of observation and watching how they are interacting with their environment, and then making recommendations on thinking not only for the here and now, but as they age in place, the goal being to keep them in their homes as long as possible, so they wouldn't have to move someday to assisted living or a nursing home if the goal is for them to stay in their homes. So
All right. So, but that's not all that you do.
no, but that is taking a lot of my time. Um, yeah, but after we make those recommendations, and I'll get to what else I'm doing too, but I didn't mention that it's a team effort. It's a collaboration, and we talk with the program manager, and she talks with the contractors, and coming up with the best solution for the client in doing the modifications. But being mindful of money as well to make it affordable. So, but other things that I'm doing is I also am mainly staying in private practice with private pay. And so that truly is more of the aging in place client. And a lot of the calls I get are from family members of people kind of my age concerned about their parents. And they may see their parents on a visit, or the parents are visiting them and they're noticing changes. a lot of these families will live out of state even. They're not even here, but they're calling me and they're finding me online and saying, "Hey, can you go in my parents' home?" And I want to make sure they're safe because I've noticed, they're starting to have falls or they seem off balance or they're having issues with, um, certain things, or they're just worried about their future and how long can they be able to stay in their home. Maybe there's some memory issues they've noticed, or maybe they've not noticed anything. They just want to plan and be ready. So um, I kind of decipher through all of that to make sure it's an appropriate referral and kind of go from there. So,
Yeah, and the other thing I think with the older adults home mods, you do go back to make sure that that stuff has worked, or
most of the time, I try to do that. Not always does that happen. I always would like to go back but when you do go back and see the changes and the success, it is rewarding to see. Wow, that made a big difference for them just to change that little thing or add this little thing, or sometimes it can be a big thing. So,
yeah, now it sounds like some of that engagement in the community and stuff has got you to where your business is now. Did you spend a lot of time like working in your community, doing things? I mean, you did home health there, so that helped, but what other
yeah,
things made the best connections for you?
I learned in your class, Sue, really the best form of making those connections is networking in person. You can advertise and do this or that, but really it's that in-person networking, which I really had to learn how to do. Being a therapist forever, it seems, I could treat any stroke patient with my eyes closed. But all this business stuff is kind of new and scary. And you mean I have to go talk to businessmen and businesswomen and really mingle and interact? But then it became fun to do that. And I go to a lot of networking events that are here in Knoxville. That especially helpful are the senior resource network that I'm involved in. There's different counties that have this, but it's a lot of professionals that work with the older generations and different professions, and we all learn about each other, and we'll have speakers sometimes and that kind of thing. So that's one big thing that's been helpful is just to meet those people in person, and that may be a short meeting, but then following up with them and making arrangements just to meet for coffee and really dive into what their business really is and how I can help them or they could help me. That kind of is how you get referrals going. So that's been very helpful to me.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the group that got the grant reached out to you, right?
Yes, because in your class, that's true. I had learned all the many ways that you can do this home modification. And of course, one whole session I think was about grants. And as soon as I learned that, I did reach out to several of the organizations as a possibility because there was that OAHMP grant was coming up, but this was in 2021.
Mhm.
And Knox County was one of those. And at that time, I think there just wasn't enough time to write that grant for what they do. Um, and little did I know they had kept my name on the back burner. And when it was time for the new grant, the second cohort, they called me and said, "Hey, we really want to apply for this grant and we would like for you to be involved." And so I kind of helped them give them information on some things that we do as occupational therapists that would help them receive the grant, to be awarded the grant. I guess I gave them, help develop, write it a little. I didn't write it, but I helped give them information to write it. And lo and behold, they were awarded. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, and I think that just comes to the value of reaching out and being involved and engaged and networking within your community, with that piece. So, would you go back to working for somebody else?
Well, I still do a little bit of home health on the side. It's not frequent, kind of once in a blue moon, because I just love it so much and I don't want to let go of it. And they're such a great company, but no, I would not go back and work for anyone else. Once you get a taste of it, there's no going back.
So, if there were other therapists coming to you for, yeah, I couldn't work for somebody else either. My days of having a boss are over. This one is harder than some of the ones I've had, though. Um, what advice would you give to other therapists that are thinking of moving into this area and unsure of where to start?
I would say, do your homework, um, do your research, talk to people, talk to other therapists that are doing this, and really understand. I've had a couple of therapists reach out to me in the local area, and we've sat down and talked about the business and what's involved. And it was helpful to them to know, which direction they wanted to go in. But I think no, there's so many programs that are out there. It seems now. How do you know which one to choose to be certified? And I think your course is one of the best ones out there that I've ever experienced. And it is just so knowledgeable and helpful with real world material, that you could apply things that you learned the next day. But yeah, I think just doing your homework and talking to people would be a very wise thing to do before you just jump in and try to start a business. It takes a lot of work.
It does take a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And thank you for those compliments about the course. I work hard on that piece. But, as you started this business, there are a lot of myths about what could and couldn't be done. What's one that stuck out for you?
Oh goodness. I took some notes on that. Myths, I don't know. I guess you don't have to feel like you have to learn it all before you actually start doing it. I think that's how I thought at first. I don't feel ready. I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough. And I really wanted to have a Sue Doyle in my back pocket at all times that I could have that confidence. It's having the confidence. But really, it's really just letting it flow. And once you start, really, it just comes natural. You're in the home, and you just think naturally in interviewing your client. It all will work out. I think the myth being you don't feel like you have to know it all, because you'll learn with experience as you go along, and it's not going to be perfect, and it will be trial and error sometimes. Well, okay, that didn't work, let's try moving that a different place, or this or that. And letting your clients understand that as well is important. So um,
Yeah, and on that score, oops, what home assessment tools do you use when you are not working on the grant, right? And maybe you also want to mention that assessment is too as an option for people is from Sheila. You want to answer that?
well, there's so many. I mean, so you have a long list, and I kind of stick to something that can be quick and easy once you get into a client's home and start to interview them and understand them. Doing it from my perspective with aging in place, I don't always necessarily do a standardized test. Um, Sometimes I'll do the tug for sure, just to see the timed up and go, to see quickly in 15 or 30 seconds, are they a fall risk or not? And then can kind of go from there. You can do mini mental, for cognition and that type of thing. Just something quick, the short blast test. The in saying all these, I am also going to be adding to my business in some of these tools and assessments. With I've had the training now to do driving assessments. And I had found being in so many homes, a lot of families would ask me, well, what about driving? Well, driving is an activity of daily living, an instrumental activity. And I would refer them somewhere else. But the more I kept getting the questions, I thought maybe I need to add this to my business. So I haven't gotten everything in place yet for that, but it's coming in the near future. I have all of the training. It's just all the logistics now with that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add a bit there. In the chat, we do go through a list of assessments, but we also talk about the difference between an assessment and using a checklist and
Hmm.
how that varies and what really makes a skilled assessment, which is why it's occupational therapy, not something that a contractor or another technician can go and do. And so that's really important because even therapists think that they can take a checklist and that that's going to perform the assessment for them. And
Hmm.
and while in a lot of situations we need to monitor our outcomes because it's good for our our business and our profession, um, there's still that big difference, which we need to be aware of. Now you're a member of our Home Safety Pros group, and you want to explain a little bit about that because I think that goes back to some of the things you were raising just earlier.
True. Yes, it is a great group that we meet weekly, and it's a Zoom call like this. And Sue is wonderful that she will have pre-planned either speakers or subjects to talk about and review, maybe even things that we've already taken in the chat course, but it's a good reminder and a good review to go back in detail with a lot of that information as a reminder. And then sometimes we'll do case studies, which is very helpful because we can talk about, challenging occurrences that may come up. And it's nice to bounce ideas off of other OTs that have gone through your course and get other ideas that, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that, or it can affirm what you're already thinking and make you feel good about what you're doing. Even today, Sue, I had a call to you, an SOS. Oh no, which was very, very relevant to our meeting that occurred last night. Where we had the speaker. So,
Yes.
yes, pause a minute.
Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. Yes, because we do bring in equipment suppliers to look at special types of equipment and things like that. But that goes back to your point about, getting started because this helps with that confidence and helps with like having a mentor in place and those kinds of things, which, is really helpful. Um, and helps with you learning new things too, right? It's kind of
Yeah. And the thing that has been surprising to me with this field, you're not just learning it and you're done. Like it is a continuous learning because the field is changing so quickly with new products that are coming out or new ways of doing things or all this smart home technology and different avenues that you have opened up our minds to, doing the emergency preparedness was very interesting and helpful. Hoarding subject. I mean, all of these are such interesting things that I would have never thought about using our OT skills with home modifications, but it is all relevant. And
and yet we see them, right? And we're never sure what to do. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So that's really broadened your OT repertoire and your confidence there. How is this I mean, how has this changed your perspective on OT altogether? Because I see so many people saying they're burned out with OT. We look at the numbers, and out of the therapy professions, people are leaving in thousands per year.
Mm.
What has this done for your perspective on OT and your journey in OT?
Well, I mean, it's all still interrelated. I mean, it's still occupational therapy. And really, this has shown me the world can be your oyster. It's what you make of, you've gotten this gift of being an occupational therapist. Now, what are you going to do with it? And like I said in the beginning of our interview, one reason I went into occupational therapy is because there is such a variety. And if I did get tired of one area, I could move to another. But you're right, people do get burned out, even being able to move from, say, hospital or a nursing home or a school system or anything like that. But this is such a new and changing, ever changing field with home modifications, and it is something that is really so needed. It's kind of tying everything together as people age in place and get older, and the baby boomers coming. I mean, this tsunami wave that they're talking about. I mean, it's the wave is upon us, and the world needs therapists that understand how to make their homes safe so that they continue to have a quality of life in their homes and enjoy living where they desire to live and not have to move. So I've enjoyed, learning all of the things.
Yeah, it really puts together the dream of what we had of OT when we entered it, right? And you get to see
Yeah.
it, and then you get to come back and look at it, and
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. And, I remember doing my field work at Patricia Neal here in Knoxville, Patricia Neal Rehab Center. And my mentor there, or supervisor, her name was Barbara Enlow. And Barbara, if you're watching, I love you. She was so wonderful, and I'd always go to her because you're insecure as a student. Well, what do I do now, or what do I do this? And she would just look at me. Well, what do you think? And she would make me think and really come up with the answers. And one thing she really taught me, and this it even applies this with the home modification piece, is if you don't know what to do as a therapist when you start out with someone, just remember the basics. Just remember the basics. The basics being okay, the basics of living. Can you bathe? Can you dress? Can you eat? All these basic things. Well, why can't you? Well, let's look at that. What does that look like? Let me see you do that. And if they're in their own setting and naturally doing that, you can observe and do your task analysis as an OT background and figure out, oh, this is why. This is why you're having trouble. Let's try adding this or doing that. And it's just fun. And just the simplest thing can really make your client successful. And then they have trust in you and how far you've helped them become more independent. I mean, you can still even apply the diversity of, like, if you're interested in dementia or if you're interested in low vision, all these things, which I'm interested in all those things, and the driving, um, the low vision, just helping someone by adding a bright contrast colored piece of tape on their microwave to now see the minute button or the 30-second button, what a difference that's made in their life. And like I said, it sounds logical and it sounds easy, but if I don't show them that, who is? It's what we're made to do is to teach them how to function and live independently.
yeah. When you said the diversity of it too, it's like I never expected when I started my practice that a third of it would really be in the developmentally disabled area, with my youngest client being 2.5. And so that was kind of like a big range. You know, my
Yeah,
oldest was almost 100 and my youngest was 2.5. But it was so great in terms of just, again, as you said, going back to the basics and looking at that, but the rewards were there, right?
right.
And it makes you still want to be engaged with your profession and still proud to be an OT.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Anything you want to add before we close?
um, I don't know. I just think, I've always wanted to, growing up in my family, we'd sit around the dinner table and I have three older brothers. So I was always kind of just listening and learning from them. But when they all left the nest and it was me, well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know, but I just know I want to help people. And I feel like I have accomplished that in helping people with this profession. And it's been a fun journey. And I never thought I would have my own business, but boy, it's a lot of fun. It is work, but it is worth going into and exploring the journey and the growth that can happen, and knowing that you are making a difference to others. So
Mm-hmm.
important.
Well, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
all the best for continuing with your business. And we'll see you on Wednesday nights in the new year.
Okay, that sounds great.